Well, welcome everyone. I am very excited today to be back in conversation with Julia Balaz, who is doing amazing research in terms of galactic energies and how they impact us. Julia is an amazing astrologer. She also has an incredible background in doing quantum healing hypnosis technique, brought forward by Dolores Cannon. You also, Julia, have such an amazing background in other areas of metaphysics and different past life regression techniques. So you've got quite a range of experience. But what excites me and what I loved in our last conversation is how you're expanding our understanding of astrology to look more at the influences of the stars. And now you're looking at these even larger cosmic energies and how they impact us. So thank you for being here, and talk a little bit about this new area of research that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you for allowing me to share this information with your audience. Since our last conversation, we have been inspired by the work of Philip Sedric. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to share a slide just to really honor who he is and what he has done for the astrologers community. So here we have Philip Sedric, who is a brilliant astrologer, and I highly encourage the viewers to visit his website, philipsedric.com, or also visit my Patreon, where I made publicly available free video preview where I discuss these 4 cosmic points with Philip. And I can assure anyone watching Philip talking about deep space objects, you will not only be expanded in your consciousness and your understanding of deep space astrology, but you'll also be entertained. He really has this distinct sense of humor that is deeply appreciated. So 3 of my community members emailed me within a space of a week about an article that Philip shared about Shapley Attractor, which I'll be talking about today. And at the time, we added the astrological degrees of these greater points to our website. So we were able to study these points for a while, looking at hundreds upon hundreds of charts, discovering interesting observations that I would like to share with the audience today. So to drive my point of how important these deep cosmic objects are, I wanted to show this visual demonstrating our Milky Way galaxy. So our Earth is revolving around the sun. Our sun is revolving around the galactic center, the heart of the Milky Way galaxy. That is being pulled by a massive force of the supergalactic center located in the Virgo cluster, grouping about 30 other galaxies. And as if that wasn't enough, that all together is then pulled towards the Great Attractor, which is grouping 100,000 galaxies. It was discovered not so long ago that even all that mightiness of space is pulled towards even greater force, which is known as Shapley Attractor, which is pulling towards itself hundreds of thousands of galaxies. The opposing point to Shapley Attractor is called dipole repeller, but Shapley is so much stronger that it is pulling away galaxies from the point of dipole repeller. So it is believed there is a lot of void space in that area. So when Philip started paying attention to these objects, and he too was inspired by another astrologer preceding him, he calculated all these powerful points based on the tropical zodiac. So the galactic center's point is currently in year 2023 located at around 27 degrees of Sagittarius and 16 minutes. Then we have the supergalactic center at 2 degrees of Libra, 22 minutes, the Great Attractor at 14 of Sagittarius, 21 minutes, and Shapley currently at 2 degrees of Scorpio and 39 minutes. And the reason why I feel perhaps more encouraged to talk about this with greater audience is because we will have our collective south node conjuncting Shapley Attractor very precisely by the minute on the 23rd of May. We'll go deeper into it in terms of how it may affect us collectively. But before we go there, I want to talk about the octaves of these great cosmic points and how they really manifest in our life. These deep space objects have such powerful gravitational pull. It's believed that these superclusters and black hole have the strongest gravitational pull on us, comparing to all the other thousands upon thousands of superclusters. So that's why we like to focus on them. And perhaps that's why they manifest in that very particular way, quite obviously in our lives when we start paying attention to the astrological degrees. Because these forces are invisible, unseen, and we really are not in control. We are being pulled by them almost 700 kilometers per second through space. Then we find that with people who have any of these points aligned to any of their natal planets, especially the sun, the personal planets, even the ascendant, or on midheaven, their point of career and public service, people seem to embody these powerful, attractive, charismatic energy that pulls people towards them, usually in support of whatever they're passionate about. And it's interesting to see for people to find these points in their natal astrology and realize, okay, maybe that's why I was picked as a class leader in secondary school. It starts very early on. People are naturally, by life, by the collective, pushed towards center stage, whether in their small communities or greater organizations that they may be working for, because it's the unconscious knowingness of the people around where people sense these people as channels, as anchors for divine consciousness, for divine inspiration, because that is another manifestation that we see over and over again with people that have these points aligned to their natal planets, that they are able more easily, it seems to be, channel solutions that are needed to help us evolve to the next level, whether it's in organizations that are more mainstream, big corporate world. We have some of our community members that are completely shifting careers, now becoming more into astrology and galactic astrology. And when we looked at their past and with their major planets aligned to these great points, they were guided to the center and they were dealing with major company issues, and they were able to come up with solutions almost out of thin air. But it's really the black hole space, and it's something that you don't have to go far out to connect. The way our whole body, soul, spirit complex operates and the way our brains are designed by divine design is allowing us to find that black hole space of infinite singularity where we can tap into past, present, and future in the now moment, in the here and now. And when we go into those types of states, that's really when we can connect with this evolutionary force, with this mightiness of cosmic intelligence. So it's really quite interesting to see that over and over. And I would see a lot of healing practitioners having these alignments in their charts. Most of them, it surprises me still to this day. It's like, oh my God, there it is again. Another person that has galactic center conjunct Neptune. And they truly then act as anchors to help others to access higher levels of consciousness or get to the core of their issues, access past life memories, ancestral memories. You really then act as a anchor for divine inspiration. So it's beautiful to see.
When you were showing the slide, Julia, it looks to me like the movement at this cosmic level is like a torus. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And that is so reflective of how our energy bodies are, within ourselves, but also how energy moves. So that's fascinating.
If we focus first on the galactic center as the first octave of our expanded consciousness, perhaps if we start at the heart, and through the heart we connect with the sun as a stargate, and then connect to the galactic center. That's really where we are inspired to reach our higher potential, where we reach a higher perspective that helps us navigate life in as high frequency as possible, right? When we connect with the spiritual center of our being. When we master that, when we integrate the frequency of galactic center, of that highest possible point of our multidimensionality, there's great wisdom in it. We are talking about 27 degrees of Sagittarius, or certainly high degrees of Sagittarius. which is all about constantly striving for evolutionary ideas, something that brings us closer to God, to that supreme moment of connection, right? Where
Well, and you're probably aware that literally, I mean, and the ancient cultures talked about this, that our view of the galactic center is that dark rift in the Milky Way, that the point of the arrow of the archer, Sagittarius, is pointing directly at it. So I love your description of that. And I think part of what we're regaining now is that ancient wisdom that our sun is in connection with our galactic center. And that orients us to that energy of the divine, of source. It's beautiful.
I love that. Thank you for bringing it in. So when we integrate that and learn how to embody that frequency, naturally life will guide us to the supergalactic center as our next point of evolution, the higher octave to be integrated. So supergalactic center lies currently at early degrees of Libra. So what we're finding with people who have natal planets aligned to that point is they are experiencing more intensely than others the polarity of relationships and the intense dynamic in their relationships. And they really are, through their life experience, learning the importance of not externalizing their insatiable need for love and validation and connection. They have to find that satisfaction within their own being, because until then they act as a black hole that just keeps consuming all the relationships, and there's a lot of pain and polarity struggles. But once they realize that that cycle will never end until they go within and find a source of infinite unconditional love within themselves, or acknowledge that union of the ultimate soulmate with the spiritual self, then the frequency of their super galactic center shifts to great attractiveness, but it comes from a place of not neediness, but rather as an inspiration to teach others to find that point inside their being. So they become teachers of divine relationship within self and others. However, what I'm also noticing, because it's early degrees of Libra and the orbs of influence are quite large with these points because they are so powerful. You can go easily 5-10 degrees in either direction.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah,
so you really do give a large orb for
you can be very generous. However, the closer you go, the more obvious the expression or the manifestation of them is. The further you go, 5 degrees and beyond, it's not as tangible. I like to go within 3 degrees because then it's really like in your face. We really sense it from people. If it's beyond that, it's not as strong. It's more subtle, and it's not a bad or good thing. They're each perfect for that individual's journey. So because it's early Libra, there could be planets in your chart that have high degree of Virgo that can, through the orb, be a conjunct supergalactic center. So with those, we find that the insatiable need is not coming or manifesting through relationships. It's manifesting through seeking information, analyzing things, wanting to perfect things, really being that Virgo to the extreme until they learn that they cannot find it out there. They have to recognize that they are source of infinite wisdom and information and knowledge and solutions. And then it's quite amazing too. Philip Sedric himself has his Saturn and his South Node conjunct supergalactic center, and both are in high degrees of Virgo. So it was interesting how it manifested for him. The amount of information that he created and generated that propels our astrology community to quantum leaps is unprecedented, really. So I wonder, is that the manifestation of the supergalactic center conjunct, you know?
So it's really important, it sounds like, for people to be conscious of how they carry these energies so that they're not spun out by them, but actually can be a conscious channel for them. It's really helpful, I think, in the work that you're doing, that you can then guide people to realize how they're experiencing these energies and how to work with them to access the gifts of them rather than getting caught in some of these shadow aspects that you're mentioning.
Oh, absolutely. And it's something that I love seeing, the level of clarity and validation, and then the great responsibility and humility that comes as a result of realization of what you just said. It can be very helpful because it's not easy to have these powerful points conjunct natal planets, especially when you're unconscious of these alignments. You are quite open to receive all kinds of downloads and realizations, and many of the practitioners in our community, they would say that in their earlier years, they really struggled to make sense of it all because their head is just packed with data that when they talk about it, others don't understand. And this is something that Philip often talks about, that when you receive something through that frequency of these super points, there is usually a lag of 6 to 9 months before others can comprehend what you're talking about.
Interesting.
And it's because these are black holes, and these superclusters, they are so dense gravitationally that they bend light, and therefore they bend time and space. So it's really beyond time and space when you start accessing this information.
Now, just from an astrological perspective, you're really looking at conjunctions to these critical cosmic energies. Do you look at other aspects as well?
To start with, for any newbie, conjunction offers plenty of information, but we do look at oppositions, trines, sextiles, and squares, and the minor aspects too, because they all are there and they all manifest in a certain way. They all have their unique tweaks. So I can talk about that. So with the conjunctions, the energy of these super points is really well integrated in the person's body, and they become more and more consciously aware through life, realizing through their experiences that they surprise themselves in challenging situations often enough until they realize at some point that, my goodness, maybe I'm a really old wise soul, but somehow I am able to help people when they need help. Somehow I am able to come up with solutions. So then they step up into the leadership roles. So that's the conjunction. With the opposition, the energy is not always active and present. It's usually triggered through transits. We have moon passing these points once every 28 days. We have sun passing them once a year. So I encourage the viewers to start paying attention to transiting planets when they are hitting any of these points, because we can all access these that consciousness. You don't have to be sad or disappointed if you don't have them in your chart. In fact, perhaps see it as a blessing, because it really is not easy to grow up with that. And especially in earlier years and earlier generations, when the consciousness was not as advanced and open, and you couldn't just talk about the stuff. So there was a lot of painful, perhaps, experiences, challenging experiences for anyone who had these alignments. So we can all tap to them during transits. So it's worth paying attention. People can perhaps take a snapshot of that slide, and even if you just reflect on the times when Sun is transiting Sagittarius, usually around Christmas time, right? Aren't we all much more in deeper self-reflection and thinking about all the relationships? There is an exponential level of pondering and downloads of inspiration that is coming directly through Sun conjuncting Galactic Center. So if you reflect on any of those moments, perhaps if people are journaling and they go back through dates whenever they had the deepest aha moments or guidance that they received through just kind of channeling, writing, I bet there will be some of these points conjunct during transits during that time. It's worth checking out.
So you see this as kind of a spiral motion with increasing octaves of consciousness. Is that right?
Yes. So
we've got the galactic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the next one, then, when you integrated a galactic center, then super galactic center, mastering relationships. Once you embody that beautifully, you're naturally through life guided to start coming together with others who are on that higher level of consciousness, working in support of evolutionary force, propelling humanity to the next level of consciousness in any type of organization. So you start coming together, and we are talking here about 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And at that point, you are challenged, or life is giving you an opportunity to embody consciousness of inclusion and integration of fractals of all that is. In other words, not being in the shadow of Sagittarius, where you become a preacher saying that what I learned and discovered is the way, and that's the only way, and everyone else is a fool. That is not happening. When people start getting to integrating the great attractor frequency, they feel very understanding of other perspectives. They're very respectful. And in fact, people who have the great attractor conjunct their natal planets, they usually find themselves in positions through work where they need to hold space, where others feel seen, acknowledged, and therefore then healed, accepted, and activated in that. So they really hold that inclusion, because if you think of it, the great attractor is pulling together 100,000 galaxies. So if we apply this kind of observational astrology concepts, and then when I see it in charts and in people's stories, it's there.
It sounds like it's also resonating with the paradigms of the Aquarian age that we're moving into, which is so much about understanding that we're all energy beings, that we're all interconnected, that we're all creative, unique fractals of cosmic consciousness, and that we're meant to honor that diversity. And so I wonder if the great attractor is really supporting us in shifting into those Aquarian paradigms.
Yeah, I wonder if there has to be an aspect then to Aquarius, because it is really very much like that frequency when I see it and sense it with people. Okay, and then once that occurs, the next octave is the Shapley, and we are looking at early degrees of Scorpio. And when you really take time to analyze in your natal chart, where is early degrees of Scorpio, and are there any planets either conjuncting or aspecting that particular point, you will realize that there is a lot of unseen force that is pulling on many aspects of your life behind the scenes, and especially if you have planets there, whatever you're passionate about, it is then expressed and embodied through those planets. It is very powerful attraction point where people are pulled towards it, situations are pulled towards it. Whatever you do is actually feeding that part of your life. And it's important to take time to look what's under the carpet there, what's in the closet, because if there are unhealthy attachments or unhealthy coping mechanisms, then it, especially at this time now when we have our collective lunar nodes in direct conjunct and opposition to Shapley and to these early degrees of Scorpio, the stuff will be revealed whether you want it or not. If the pure intentions or true intentions will be known to yourself, to your immediate environment, or to the greater collective if you are in a public area. So because Shapley is so powerful, and really the force we cannot even comprehend, and the mass of gravitational density that is at its center and the sheer size of it is just, it always blows my mind. But it's interesting how many people in our public sphere have early degrees of Scorpio aligned either to their sun or any of the personal planets, their MC. I encourage viewers to go and just look for astrological charts of people with early Scorpio. There are websites that have huge database of charts, and you'll be amazed how many, whether top level politicians or most prestigious actors, spiritual leaders. It's amazing to see how many of these high level individuals are leveraging, most likely unconsciously, the power of Shapley, magnifying the power of their personal planets. Also world's leading organizations that are influencing our lives in one way or another. There's a lot of influence worldwide that is happening behind the scenes, and Shapley kind of works like that. But because the South Node right now is on Shapley, it makes us all think about what are the real intentions of certain individuals or certain organizations. And I believe now with Jupiter opposing the South Node, opposing Shapley, it will magnify that, especially around, towards the end of May. I feel there is like a culmination point that will kind of resolve the resistance to looking at the true motivations and intentions and through powers that are moving everything behind the scenes. I think Jupiter really will create a shift in that area, and truth will be revealed. And then, trauma as a result of that can be healed, and we can move on then with quantum leaps towards our higher potential, because there's nothing holding us back anymore, right? It's such a difference in frequency when there is stuff hidden, whether it's in family dynamics or personal experience, personal relationship with self. If you're not totally honest, it's a very different attraction point to when stuff is released. We can relax, accept, and then move on with a clean slate. How do you feel about end of May and onwards, Heather?
Well, what you're saying is just brilliant, Julia. And I think part of what's coming through as you're talking about it, and I see this also when people have very powerful conjunctions, particularly with the sun or the moon, with the outermost transpersonal planets or with some of the really powerful fixed stars, that it's important to realize those energies are moving through us. But if we attach our ego to it, I mean, these are very powerful cosmic energies that you're describing. And if we think that we carry those energies of Shapley or the Great Attractor, and that it's my magnetism that's really impacting people, then I think it can really pull us off center and into a very destructive way of being in those energies. And what you're describing, that's so beautiful. It's beautiful that when we work with these energies consciously, then we can be messengers of them or holding them for the collective, because this is such a profound time of transition and transformation. So I think it's significant that we are now gaining more consciousness of these energies and their impact. And it also seems to me from what you're saying that we live in a holographic reality. So these powerful forces that are shaping the movement of galaxies actually also live within us.
Oh,
that we're
absolutely.
each a hologram of the whole.
Beautifully said. And I have to say, during regression hypnosis, when we assist a person to go through from the everyday beta analytical brainwave stage to alpha, more relaxed, to theta, where we can access past, present, and future simultaneously, many of them, and not just with me, but also with other QHHT practitioners, they experience that. They would say, oh my God, I'm actually a planet, or I'm a star, or I'm a black hole, I'm a galactic center. And they really felt it. There was not a cell in their being that would contradict that. It's very powerful, what you said there.
Beautiful.
What I found with these alignments, the point you want to say about the ego, kind of that it's such a fine line when we start experiencing the powerful attraction point. In my life, I, for example, have Shapley conjunct my Saturn in early Scorpio and conjunct my Pluto in late Libra in my 6th house. And I found very early on that if I don't act in integrity and with discipline and diligence and all that high Libra and early Scorpio represent, and Saturn and Pluto, life would immediately slap me back in the face with the outcome of, like, if I lied in my earlier years, whether school teacher or the parent, like everything was always revealed very fast. So I learned very early on to be very careful. I'm not saying that it's perfection. I still have a way to go, but they tend to, as I also speak to others, manifest this way as well. When we were talking about this with Pam Gregory, her experience with that was similar. She too has Saturn conjunct Shapley. So in the community that I seem to be attracting, people seem to live with high levels of integrity. And that makes me think that perhaps because there is increasing amount of individuals who are consciously aware of the law of attraction and the law of frequency, really striving, doing their best, living with high integrity, working for years on healing, resolving stuck energies, trauma, and all that. There's such an exponential growth of that level of consciousness when we are returning to peace, love, connection, wanting to help others. Now it feels like we are creating enough momentum for that to have the impact on the rest of the world. And I see astrology, the way the planets are transiting now and how we are connecting consciously with these deep space objects, it is going to support that, where we're going to break a dam and everything that needs to be revealed will be revealed so that it can finally be healed, and then we can full speed start evolving, creating solutions that we cannot even dream about right now, but they will make so much sense. It will be quite amazing, and especially generations that are carrying these points on their whether personal or outer planets.
Part of what you're saying that I think is so important, because I really believe as we're moving into the age of Aquarius and at the ending of one precessional cycle and the beginning of a new one, that it's really important that we're working with those Aquarian energies consciously. And I know that some people see our trajectory as more and more technology, more movement into artificial intelligence. But part of what you're describing, that to me is actually the deeper, true archetypal meaning of the age of Aquarius, is remembering that we're energy beings and that everything can be worked through our consciousness. Because when you're describing these cosmic energies and these black holes, they're portals to other galaxies, to time, the time-space continuum. We can do space travel, time travel, if we connect with those energies. But also, it feels to me like black holes are the ultimate source of alchemy, of what needs to be destroyed, what needs to be absorbed and reconfigured and rebirthed in that black hole, which is the source of all that is in our galaxies. So it's amazing to think about how we can work with those energies in our own process of transformation and evolution, individually and collectively.
Excellent point. Yes. Beautiful. And it's wonderful to see people who have these points in their natal charts and they're starting to embody that. And then when you see it being activated in connection to others who need to receive those divine solutions, who need assistance with alchemy of their own inner being, it's fascinating how life propels you to situations where you act as an anchor for that, whether you consciously know it or not. There's just truly awe-inspiring cosmic intelligence that is governing our lives. And it's one of those early realizations that I had through QHHD sessions when I started studying my clients' charts, how beautiful our intuition is, and in complete alignment with the astrology. You know, I noticed some people feel very intuitive and they struggle with the idea of diving deeper into astrology because there's such a quantum of data. It feels very mental. And many people who are intuitive, creative, they kind of feel repelled by that. So I always like to tell them, you know, don't worry about astrology at all, because the map of cosmos, of the star imprint when you were born it's in your heart, it's in your soul. The soul knows, it's wired in perfect alignment with cosmos, with the transits, with everything. What's there for you will not pass you. So they can relax about it, because some feel tension about, oh, maybe I should know all that, but just follow your heart, follow your highest excitement. I feel Shapley also is another frequency of that, is the need to follow your excitement. Because even if you think about it, I just reflected on that earlier today, you know, the fact that it is pulling towards itself millions of galaxies, I mean, there has to be a frequency of passionate, expansive, exciting, something very attractive, right?
Draw what, move towards what attracts you.
It's gotta be something like that. So
but that's
in our life, and it's a message that is broadcasted more and more lately, right? Follow your passion, follow your excitement. I wonder, is that one of the manifestations of Shapley being directly influencing our collective lunar nodes? Possibly.
Beautiful. You know, I love what you're saying, Julia, about, I think that, you know, and part of what I see is the shift as we move into the Aquarian age is we're meant to become more balanced with left brain, right brain ways of knowing. And that a lot of how I work in my astrology classes is guiding people to begin to attune to the energies of the planets and stars in an intuitive way, not through their analytical mind. We do shamanic journeys to the planets and let them, their consciousness, communicate with us. So I think that's important. And I think the more that we're all developing our intuitive gifts, which we all have, the more we are in tune with the energies of these planets and these black holes and cosmic energies, whether we know about them intellectually or not. And
I
I
love
know
that.
the synchronicities are amazing when you begin to trust in those connections and those patterns. I mean, for example, my North Node is conjunct the Galactic Center. The first book that I wrote was about the Galactic Center, how we come into that center within us. So much of my work is about how do we find our inner center, that and connection to source. So it's beautiful how these energies will guide us, even if we're not intellectually aware of them, if we're in tune with our intuition and inner guidance.
Oh, that manifestation, it just makes my heart sing. That is incredible. Thank you for bringing that in and sharing that. What a just another validation of what we are discovering over and over. I love that we have groups of people going in through the center of their being and connecting with unified intention to different star systems or the galactic center. We have this discussion often in our community where, as we are adding more fixed stars and when we are looking at the ancient interpretations of them that are often very doomy and gloomy, we are learning more and more to let it all go and allow what's most relevant in the presence of our time to come through these stars, because I'm sure they too evolved from the moment when our ancient astrologers were deciphering them. I'm sure cosmos is evolving just as fast as we are. So there are very different stories and frequencies and downloads coming through stars now.
I totally agree. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is looking at the different paradigms that we move through with the precessional cycle that then shapes how we perceive our reality. It shapes the stories that we project onto the stars and the planets. So I really believe that one of the things that's important as we're moving into the age of Aquarius is that we don't lock into the old stories and the old paradigms about the stars and planets, but allow there to be a new story to emerge as are evolving and growing, but also we're shifting into a whole new level of consciousness. So we can't attach to those meanings and paradigms of the past and pull them into this new age. We need to be reinformed and re-engage with these energies through our experience in this level of the spiral of our evolutionary consciousness.
Absolutely. One point I feel like adding to that is when looking at those mythical stories of what they've experienced, can we use that to see what can we learn from it so that we don't have to relive those painful moments again? So really building on that and taking it to the next level. So not completely dismissing it. Yeah. Because there's a lot. It's fascinating how those
mythical exactly. But seeing it as a spiral.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, seeing it as a spiral development and that we learn. And I also truly believe that part of our movement with the precessional cycle is that we're a part of a binary star system with Sirius. So I do believe that part of our own cycle of consciousness, as described in the Hindu Yuga cycles, is that we go through these periods of forgetting and then coming back into higher states of consciousness and remembrance. So I do believe that part of what's profound is we're coming out of that Kali Yuga phase of forgetting some of the ancient wisdom that we once knew. And some of what you're opening to and your community is discovering is, I think, remembering some of that ancient wisdom that was known in more ancient cultures that's coming back to us again.
Yes. Oh, thank you for bringing that in. What excites me to no end is realizing as people are consciously remembering or consciously connecting to various star systems and very strongly with Sirius, there is so much connection to Sirius through so many people that I've met in my life, but many other star systems too. I like to believe that because we bring that frequency into our physical reality, somehow we are helping to evolve those star systems too. Somehow we are creating greater connectivity, greater unity, not just within our own planet and solar system, but that is really spanning across the multiverse. I believe that we are participating in something really epic here, because through the stories of souls that, or people that regress into past, present, and future lives that are all over this universe, it seems like really the souls were ushered here from far places. So something very special here. And yet it doesn't matter at the same time, right? The paradox of life, where it's all about then the next generation and the next and the next, and we are long gone.
So before we stop, Julia, how would you encourage people to begin? I mean, first of all, look at in their charts to where they may have connections with these energies. But how do you encourage people to work with these energies? Because it feels to me like another critical piece of this is how to stay grounded as you open to these really powerful, expansive energies. So how do you encourage people in beginning to more actively work consciously with some of these energies?
Yeah. So first of all, where to access that? Most freely available softwares. There's a complex way how to obtain these points through the software, but our website, galacticastrology.com, when you go to free charts, you can for free enter your birth details. We don't store them, and you will get conjunct, opposition, trine, sextiles, and squares to these cosmic points. So that's how you can find out. First of all, the next moment is sense of overwhelm, like, oh my God, there's so much there. I'm actually really connected to all that. So you need to take a few deep, long breaths and ground yourself, realizing, okay, it's okay now. I just stepped on a really exciting and long journey. It takes a long time to learn to understand and integrate these points, and you are not meant to know it all at once. It'll be extremely overwhelming and distracting to your everyday experiences. Usually when a person starts this journey, their immediate environment is not there at all with their minds. They are dealing with mundane daily stuff. So when you start talking about that, usually there is not much receptivity or support within the immediate environment. But there we have community now. We have a public group, Galactic Astrology Soul Tribe. So perhaps you can find support there. And then just taking time to, either if you are a more mental person, perhaps if you have a lot of Virgo, Sagittarius, Gemini, you will enjoy the path of Googling the keywords for different star systems or these galactic points, and just see what resonates with you. Keep that and leave what doesn't resonate. And, if you're the intuitive person, then you start the journey within. Then I really encourage you to start paying attention to transits. Because you can really leverage the power of whether the moon or the sun, Mercury, the faster moving planets, to help you connect in a more potent way with the center of your being, and always with the intention to help you receive information that supports your next step in your evolution. I believe if we kind of focus on evolution, because the evolutionary force seems to be so strong lately, then we will be sustained by life. We will be protected. We'll be guided, if we are willing to change and continue to expand. And then remember that there will be moments when it will get really overwhelming, informational wise and just energy wise. Then you really need to connect with the earth. You must not forget doing that regularly and often and daily to do all the grounding stuff. There's so many different ways how you can do that, and just be present. And then realize also that no matter how many alignments you have, what matters the most is who you are in the present moment, in your immediate relationships. Do you act in integrity, or are you boosting your ego, focusing on all these attachments? So, I'm not taking it too seriously as well.
Yeah. And I just want to add that I think it's wonderful that you have a community that is exploring this and supporting each other in this, because I think that's a really powerful way to be working with these energies and being in a context where people are really supporting each other in how to integrate that in a grounded way. It's great.
We didn't talk about the trine, sextiles, and squares. Is it okay if I quickly mention them so that we don't leave people hanging?
Yes. Yes.
So the trines, so I talked about the conjunction and oppositions. the trines seem to manifest in a way where it feels like you have access to that higher consciousness, you have access to the frequency of whether the fixed star or the galactic center or the others, but it's dormant. It's like a toolbox full of skills and gifts and qualities that you maybe gathered over many lifetimes, or really just through the alignments to the star systems or the galactic points, and the box is closed most of the time. But whenever you are exposed to a situation that requires the need of these tools, you are naturally able to access them. So if you would read that person, you will not necessarily notice that galactic center frequency with them, but in certain situations, they will suddenly activate, because the trine is like that inner supportive energy. They always manifest in a really beautiful way. It feels like a really good karma. And then sextiles, very positive too. However, the information or the support seem to be coming from external sources. It feels like people have really good luck in terms of meeting the right person at the right time to help them in a difficult situation. And this seems to be happening a lot. So with sextiles, and it will usually be, you will attract a person that will have a similar astrology alignments. They will have either that fixed star very prominent in their chart, or they will have a galactic center and that prominent in their chart prominent. So you will, through your sextile to galactic center, attract person with conjunct to galactic center to help you at the moment when you need it the most. So it's amazing how even
beautiful.
that is epically arranged, and the square is challenging. It creates kind of the inner tension in earlier years before we learn to navigate and understand and accept a variety of different energies that don't really seem compatible, but with age and time we learn to embrace both for their differences, and we are guided to create a hybrid of something better that works in union. So squares are really important, I feel, throughout our lives, because they are really helping us to bring different types of art tools, and then we create something amazing, whereas before we wouldn't even think of possibility of that kind of combination. So they are a blessing in disguise for sure. And I find people with a lot of squares, they seem to grow up sooner, or they're really capable of dealing with challenges and understanding different types of energies and navigating them. It's not easy in earlier years, but at a certain point it's good. Does that resonate with you too? Is that
lead to a lot of inner strength?
Yeah.
Yes, totally agree with that. That's very, very well said. Well, thank you so much for bringing this work forward and opening up this whole other expansive understanding of how we can work with these energies consciously. So it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited for people to start diving deeper into this and see where it takes them. Certainly Jupiter kind of conjuncting the North Node, and all the alignments there. Good time for something like that, for the expansion of consciousness and connecting to super cosmic points. What a journey.
Well, and the fact that the nodes are lined up with that and Pluto squaring the nodes, it just speaks to the incredible transformation that we're in right now and the incredible opportunities for expanding our consciousness. So thank you, Julia.
Thank you too. Many happy activations to all. Much love.
Blessings to all.